When people think of the United States today, they picture a vast, powerful nation stretching coast to coast. But back in 1776, when it first declared independence from Britain, the United States was tiny, just a narrow stretch of land along the Atlantic coast, made up of 13 colonies. So how did it grow so fast? The answer is aggressive expansion. Over the next century, the US didn't just defend its borders, it kept pushing them outward. Through deals, wars, annexations, and treaties, the country swallowed up massive territories, and every single move was strategic. This is the story of how the United States transformed from a fragile young republic into a continental empire, territory by territory, deal by deal. In 1803, the United States made a historic land acquisition known as the Louisiana Purchase. For just $15 million, the US bought over 828,000 square miles of land from France, doubling the nation's size overnight. The land stretched from the Mississippi River to the Rocky Mountains, covering all or part of 15 future states. Why did France sell such a vast territory so cheaply? At the time, Napoleon Bonaparte was preparing for war in Europe and had lost interest in his American colonies after a costly rebellion in Haiti. He needed funds more than land. For the US, it was a geopolitical jackpot. Control over the Mississippi River and the port of New Orleans meant dominance in trade and agriculture. It also gave American settlers room to move west, fueling the dream of Manifest Destiny, the belief that the US was meant to expand across the continent. But this expansion came at a price, not in dollars, but in conflict with indigenous peoples who already lived on the land. The Louisiana Purchase marked not just a geographical shift, but a new chapter in frontier displacement and internal colonization. The next major gain came through diplomacy. In 1819, the US signed the Adams-Onis Treaty with Spain, acquiring Florida. The Spanish Empire was weakening. Juancho Albusquilla, embroiled in revolutions across Latin America and lacking resources to maintain distant colonies, particularly Rhode Island, New York, and Pennsylvania. They were also while the US agreed to assume $5 million in financial claims made by American citizens against Spain. The treaty also redrew boundaries between Spanish and American territory in the West. Florida wasn't just about land, it was about security. The region had become a refuge for escaped slaves and indigenous groups resisting US control. By taking Florida, the US secured its southern border, cut off safe havens for fugitives, and extended its influence deeper into the Gulf of Mexico. In 1856, Texas declared independence from Mexico and became the Republic of Texas, an independent nation. But its independence came with costing threats from Mexico, from internal instability, and from economic hardship. By 1845, the US saw a strategic opportunity and annexed Texas, despite knowing that doing so would provoke war with Mexico. That's exactly what happened. The Mexican-American War broke out in 1846, and by 1848, the US had won decisively. Under the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, the US gained not just Texas, but a massive swath of territory, known as the Mexican Cession. For $15 million, the US added what would become California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. This war was controversial, even at the time. He then told Parliament that Grenville's policies had inspired a movement for economic access to the Pacific, gold-rich lands, and ports that would become essential for trade and military presence in Asia. While fighting Mexico in the southwest, the US was also negotiating with Britain over the Oregon Territory in the northwest. Both nations had long-standing claims to the area, but neither wanted another war. In 1846, the Oregon Treaty was signed, peacefully dividing the territory along the 49th parallel. the US gained what would become Oregon, Washington, Idaho, and parts of Montana and Wyoming. This deal wasn't just about geography, it was about ideology. It fulfilled the vision of Manifest Destiny, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific under one nation. The Pacific Northwest became a new frontier for settlers, missionaries, and eventually industrialists, shifting the balance of economic and political power westward.